Genie and Cuckoo.
Hey there, and welcome back to Jinuku TV. If you're new here, we are so excited to have you join us. And if you have been following our series on Adobe Animate, welcome back. In our last video, we talked about classic tweening, a super simple way to create animation by moving, rotating, or scaling objects between keyframes. If you missed it, I highly recommend checking it out first because Motion Tween builds on some of the same concept. Today, in this video, we will focus on motion tweening. So let's dive in. Motion tweening is like classic tween's more advanced sibling. While classic tween is great for basic motions, motion tween gives you the ability to animate objects along their custom paths, adjust multiple properties at once, and create more dynamic and fluid animation. So if you loved classic tweening, I'm sure you will definitely enjoy using motion tween on your project. Let's start with a quick demo. First, just like in classic tween, you will need to draw something. How about a rocket shape? Once you have got it, simply right-click on your object and select Convert to Symbol. Remember, just like with classic tween, motion tween only works with symbols. For now, that's a rule to live by in Adobe Animate. Next, just like we did it in classic tween, set your first keyframe by placing your rocket where you want to start. Think of keyframe as the beginning and end points of your animation. From there, right-click on the timeline and select Create Motion Tween. This is where the fun begins. Now move to the later frame, let's say frame 40, and drag the rocket to its ending position. Want to add some flair? Try rotating it or resizing it just like you would in classic tween. But with motion tween, you can do all this in one smooth animation. To rotate or resize the object, go to the Free Transform tool. Here's where motion tween really shines compared to classic tween. Now with the help of selection, subselection, and Free Transform tool, you can click on the motion path and adjust it however you like. To move the object from one position to another, simply select the object and drag it to the desired position. With Selection tool, you can reshape the motion path. As soon as you hover over the motion path while in Selection tool, notice a tiny curvature indicator under the mouse. Click and drag to edit the motion path. Use Subselection tool to control the motion path using Bezier handles. Similarly, drag and adjust the anchor points using both Selection and Subselection tool and notice the difference between them. And finally, scale, skew, or rotate the path with the Free Transform tool. This kind of flexibility is somewhat missing in classic tween. And once you're satisfied with all the changes, hit Enter to preview your animation. See how the rocket glides so smoothly? That's the magic of motion tweening, and it's definitely a step up from the animation using classic tween. You can further adjust motion path by going to the motion tween properties. To do that, click on the motion path. This automatically opens the properties panel for the motion path. You can make few basic adjustments here. Click on the edit icon on the upper right corner here. This will open the effects panel. Play around and experiment with your animation. Before we wrap up, here are a couple of tips to really make your motion path stand out. Tip number 1. Use easing. This is something we even discussed in the classic tween video, and it is just as important here. Ease in and ease out adds natural acceleration and deceleration to your animation, making them feel more polished and smooth. Tip number 2. Combine properties. With Motion Tween, you are not limited to just one property at a time. You can move, resize, rotate, and fade objects simultaneously. This opens up endless possibilities for creating dynamic animation. We will explore all these features in a project video. Until then, have fun and get comfortable with the different available options. Remember, you won't know it until you try it yourself. So that's Motion Tweening in a nutshell. It's the perfect next step after mastering classic Tween, and it's packed with features to make your animation more fluid and exciting. If you haven't already, go back and check out our classic Tween and other videos in this series. It's a great foundation for understanding how keyframes work in Adobe Animate. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more animation tips and tricks. As always, share your work with us in the comments. We would love to see you what you're creating. Until next time, happy animating!